Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. Tonight, it is episode 125, and this is the follow-up to last week's show. This is the Ask Us show that we said we would do last week with Melissa and I. We put out the request for you guys to give us some questions, and we're going to try and answer them to the best of our ability here tonight. We did get a few in. Hopefully we'll have a few people join us live. Maybe we'll get one from the live comments. I did have a couple people say they would try and stop in. And I believe Ben's actually going to be joining us too from Newfoundland, and he'll be working in the comments there and may give his 2 cents on a few things as well.
Great. Hi, guys. Thanks again for having me. It's me, Melissa, Robert's wife. Once again, just filling in for Ben while he's away. We're looking forward to some live questions. We do have some piled up here from the last couple of days of you guys asking questions. Thanks so much. So let's do it, I guess.
So do you just want to dive right in, and we might as well start with the list you got there, and we'll just answer them as they come up. Try and get as many in as we can. We'll try to keep it to the point and be as informative as possible so we can hopefully get to all of them.
Okay, I think the first one I got was, what do you do if you become lost in the woods?
Which was similar to one I had as well. I forgot to tell you that. It's the second one down. If you become disoriented in the woods, if you become disoriented while in the woods and have no sense of direction, where would you begin to find your way out before becoming completely lost? So it's kind of similar in a way. I think the answer is going to be very similar to both of these. So because you're the guest on the show, do you want to start, or would you like me to lead into it?
I think that for this question, you have to start at the beginning. And the beginning is your prep for your trip out. So really, if you're going out into the woods to do any kind of adventuring, you should definitely have a plan. And that usually includes a map of the area that you're going to be in, as well as some kind of potentially a GPS, either a tracker or a handheld. And then also you should be sharing your plans with someone on the outside who knows kind of at least a general idea of where you're going to be, what area you're going to be in, and what you're going to be doing while you're there, as well as what time they kind of expect you to be out, and then what time you're supposed to be checking back in too. So that will help if you get lost in the woods, if you know someone knows where you are, at least in the general vicinity, and they know when to start looking for you. I think that's probably your number one tip. And then if you're actually lost in the woods, control your panic and then go from there.
Yeah, so one of the follow-ups to mine, I didn't include in the question because I figured I would touch on it, but it was if you don't happen to have a compass with you.
Right.
So like you said, from the beginning, as Mel said, if you go in, you should have some form of navigating device. Map and compass is hard to beat. It's old school, but it works, and it worked for a long time, still works today. GPS is great. A lot of phones have GPS built in as well, but keep in mind those two both have battery life attached to them, so you have to be aware of that and the limitations of those. But let's say you're in there, you get lost, and for some reason your GPS died, or maybe you accidentally lost your compass. So once you realize, I guess let me back up a tiny bit. Be honest with yourself and realize when you are lost right away, and don't say, oh, it's just over the hill, or oh, it's just around the bend. That really adds up over time, and you can get yourself further and further and further into trouble. The second you have an inkling that you're probably not where you should be, or you feel that you're lost, and Ben can attest to this, hopefully he jumps in there, Ground Search and Rescue will recommend that you just set up shop there, because the further you go away, you may be potentially putting yourself further into the woods, which once again has to expand that search party. If they come out and look at you, they are going to start at your last known location. If you're heading directly away from that, you're just getting further and further and further, and they work in circular patterns, so that's going to take longer and longer and longer and longer to find you.
I know here locally, and then maybe it's old school, maybe I might be aging myself with this program, but I know that back here in Nova Scotia, when I was in school, we did kind of just I guess it was like an assembly with the DNR people who would come and teach the children basic, outdoor safety. And the point of the entire program, the slogan, the tagline was hug a tree. So if you're lost, just stop and hug a tree. Pick a tree. That tree's your best friend. You don't leave your tree. You should always see your tree. So obviously that's for children and very, very simplified. But really for anyone out in the woods, if you think you're stuck, lost, then stop. Do not continue to try to navigate if you don't know for sure where you are or where you're going.
No, because especially in cold weather, wet weather, and stuff like that, that's time better spent in trying to prepare yourself for potentially an overnight. You can make yourself a little bit more comfortable, maybe get a fire going, get out of the weather a little bit, and make yourself visible. So if you have, they always tell you to pack something orange or something that's going to be highly visible. Get something like that out, make your presence known. You know what I mean? They're going to be coming, they're going to be looking for you if it's an extended amount of time. What they don't recommend you doing is yelling. Because yelling constantly, you're eventually going to wear your voice out, and then when it counts, it's no longer there to be able to signal the rescuers to come in. So the better option, of course, is they always tell you, go into the woods with a whistle, right?
Right, whistle.
There's minimal required stuff taken to the woods when you're hunting, and that should really kind of go, and I think it kind of does go with any time you're going into the woods, and one of those things is a whistle, compass, cutting device, and a way to start a fire, and you have to be able to display that you can use your navigating device, I think is what it is now because of the introduction of GPSs and stuff. But yeah, so once you know you're not where you're supposed to be, hold tight, get yourself hunkered in, get yourself comfortable, make yourself seen.
Be aware and listen for any kind of a rescue. That could be people yelling in the woods. That could be a helicopter circling overhead. Those are the kinds of things that you're going to be wanting to be actively listening and looking for, because that's the time when you're going to, be out there hollering back or making sure that your signal is, going or set up, or that you are signaling actively, perhaps with like a mirror or what have you.
And another important thing to remember is the rule of three. Anything in threes, generally in nature, is a sign of distress. So if you got 3 piles of rocks, 3 signal fires, 3 blasts on a whistle. In the hunting course, they used to teach 3 shots, because most times you wouldn't shoot 3 times in a row. It's kind of one of those things. So remember the rules of 3. A lot of people still follow that. We could go really into depth into that, but I think that's the easiest way to brush on that. What I would recommend anybody that is, lingering on this question a little bit, contact us. We can give you a little bit more information. At the very minimum, might be look at taking like an orienteering course of some sort. Get to familiar with a map, a compass, a GPS. Just don't run out, grab one, and assume that it's going to work perfect for you. Compasses, they take a little bit of knowledge to use. GPSs, they're fairly simple, but they're only simple if you know how they work, kind of deal.
And if the battery's on.
Exactly.
or charged up, yeah.
So why don't we end that one there, because I believe, looking at our time, that was about 7 minutes.
If anyone has any questions building off of that one, feel free to jump on and ask us live. We're watching the comments now.
All right, so the next one I had in here, actually, let's finish your list off, if you don't mind. Because I think the next one...
we share this one, too.
Yeah, so this one's kind of a shared one, too.
So mine's just a general, what do you do about bears?
And the one I had listed to me on that was, what do you do if you have a bear aggravating your campsite?
Right,
and I mean,
so that's kind of 2 different levels. One is, you just see a bear, and another one is if you have a bear kind of actively pursuing you.
And funny enough, we literally just got back from a trip today. Or we got back today from a trip that we've done in the last couple days where we were up in the Cape Breton Highlands. We were doing some hiking and stuff up there. And they actually gave us a brochure completely about what to do in case of bears. Right.
So, we're not professionals in this sense necessarily, but your local national park staff certainly is. So taking their advice on some of these things is really important, especially when you're entering these zones and they hand you this pamphlet. Read it. Because you're not going to have time to read it if, you come upon this situation and you need to deal with it in the moment. So here for our Cape Breton Highlands National Park, Keep It Wild, Keep It Safe brochure. It's not only bears. There's, you should be aware of what's I was going to say species, but what kinds of animals are in the area that you're in that could potentially harass you. That's important. So, I mean, yes, this question was about bears, but in this in this pamphlet, for example, in the area that we were in, the 3 animals that they wanted to educate you about were bears, coyotes, and moose. So here you people who are watching. So bears specifically, we have black bears here in Atlantic Canada. If we are talking about things like brown bears or grizzly bears, polar bears, those are a bit more bigger and more aggressive species. They're not as nimble, but they're definitely a larger contestant to wrestle with. Here in Atlantic Canada, we have black bears. I'm going to say little black bears, but I mean, you still don't want to come toe-to-toe with one of these guys. Basically, the points that they give you are to remain calm, to observe what the bear is doing. Is it actively pursuing you? Is it bluff charging you? Is it being passive or aggressive? Is it defensive, or, is it hungry? So, are there cubs nearby? Is there anything between you and it? Is there food between you and it? These are all things to very quickly assess if you see a bear. Does it even see you? I know that bears are aware of us probably much sooner than we're aware of them. But if they're not actually, looking at you, walking in your direction, if they're walking away and, they're down a cliff face and up the other hill, there's a good chance that if they're walking away, they're going to continue on that path, and you should just try not to intercept it. But so, for example, it says, do not look directly at the bear. Talk in a low tone and walk away slowly, facing the bear. Do not run. Do not climb a tree. Black bears are agile climbers. It can climb a tree much faster than you can. That's not a good escape. Do not feed a black bear, obviously. So that includes securing your food at your campsite, which is a little bit more on your side of the question. You can touch back on that. And then it goes further to say if a bear approaches you, you should have bear spray ready. So again, think about when you're going into the woods, what should I take for the potential animals that I might encounter? Do I need bear spray? Do I need a bear bell? Do I need a flare gun? There's a lot of things that you can use depending on how big the animals in your area are. Some animals I know, like up north and in other countries, you need to pack a rifle when you're out in the woods because, polar bears are not something that you are going to outfight. But here again with our little black bears, if the bear approaches you, make yourself large, make noise, throw rocks. If you're in a group with other people, gather together. It makes you kind of bigger collectively. You should stand up to the bear, and again, not run from it. If it approaches within 7 meters, that's when you would deploy your bear spray. If a black bear is actually actively attacking you, there's 2 different kinds, defensive and predatory. Recognizing each type will help you react appropriately. So the defensive bears are the ones who are just trying to protect where they are from you. So they might be protecting their cubs from you. They might be trying to protect their food from you. And these guys just want you to leave. So they're gonna huff at you. They're gonna clack their jaws. They're gonna bluff charge, which looks like a kind of a stamping forward action. And they'll swing their head side to side pretty aggressively while huffing and puffing at you. Again, they're trying to make themselves look big and scary to scare you away. So don't break eye contact, back away slowly, keep it even keel. The ones who are predatory are more often the attacks that we find at night. They are actively looking for you. They want probably to eat you or to just get you away. Yeah, something you have on you, I guess. Maybe not you, but they're coming after you specifically. They're not just trying to scare you away. So these guys are a little bit more dangerous because they know what they're getting into and they're trying to actively kind of come for it. So again, just don't turn and run. Stand up to the bear. Make yourself large. The only difference that it makes on this pamphlet, I know you have a difference of opinion in your work with black bears, so I'm interested to hear why you say what you say. But in this one, it says if it's a defensive attack and the bear knocks you down, that you should play dead. If it's predatory and they're actively coming after you and they knock you down, you should not play dead and you should actively fight with everything you have. The other one is just curling up in a ball and covering your head, neck with your arms because, you can maul your arms, but if they maul your face, it's a bit worse. So I know I've heard many people say with black bears, do not ever play dead, because they'll just continuously maul you. They have a thing about kind of playing with their food. They don't really care that you're dead. They're still just going to keep hitting you around. And then this, national park brochure tells you that if a defensive bear knocks you down, that you should play dead. So it's going to be a bit of a trying to figure out what your best defense is going to be. And obviously, if it comes to the point that you're being actively mauled, again, just protecting your face and neck with your hands and arms, and just keep rolling away from the bear. And I mean, you could be fighting back quite a bit as well. So go ahead.
No, I mean, you covered most of it there. The only thing I would say is, for answering my question, if it's actively mauling your campsite, there's most likely something drawing them in. And Mel touched on it there. It's probably going to be your food or something like that that's kind of bringing them in. A lot of people used to do like cash bags or food bags or something like that, where they'd tie their food in a bag and hoist it up into a tree. I mean, it's something. I'm not a huge fan of that method simply because
I feel like that method might not be for black bears. Is it
it's
more
not
for
the
like
best.
grizzly territory where they don't climb
honestly
trees?
more like coyotes and stuff. Because the other big
Coyotes.
thing we have in Nova Scotia that are prevalent and climb like buggers is raccoons. And honestly, all you're doing is giving them a little bit of work before they get to their meal. So the better way of doing it, in my opinion, once again, try and get some sort of airtight container and store your food in that. Still, though, keeping with the storing it away from your campsite area, simply because if they do get a whiff of it or something like that, they're going to come in and be curious about it, potentially get a free meal, because bears are opportunistic eaters. They don't usually go out of their way to hunt and track and food like that. They will, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, they're way more happier to just stumble into a blueberry field or a cranberry patch or a green bin, which a lot of people know, or some unattended food at a campsite and help themselves. Because bears, from the time they come out of hibernation until they go back into hibernation, they're basically one thing. They're trying to get as many calories as they can with the least amount of effort being put out to prepare themselves, once again, for going back into hibernation. With the females, they're trying to replenish some of the calories and stuff they're burning off by nursing the young and such like that. But basically, the name of the game is as many calories as you can get with the least amount going out. So keeping that in mind, just treat your campsite accordingly. Store your food away if you're preparing things like fish and meat and stuff like that. Generally, don't do it right in front of your tent. The smell's going to linger. It could potentially attract something, not even just a bear, maybe a coyote, a raccoon. Even squirrels have been known to come in and be a nuisance to your campsites. That's just good general campsite maintenance. And that's basically all I would include into what you said there. As for the playing dead versus that, I am going to go with
Fight.
Fight, only because
And
that's
protect your
basically
tent.
always what I've been taught. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that, and I strongly recommend that if you are interested in finding more out, and if you're going to be going in somewhere that is very, black bear populated, do a little research. There's a website called bearfacts.com or something like that. That gives you a lot of good stuff on different types of bears. Department of Lands and Forestry has a section on black bears. The parks
The
offer
National
information.
Park Services.
So yeah, definitely do your own research, make your own opinions, and go for that. Having more knowledge is never a bad thing.
Right.
And so, I mean, even if you feel differently, at least you have some knowledge in there to back up why you would feel differently and why you would do other stuff. And once again, keeping in mind here in Nova Scotia, black bears are significantly different than grizzly bears, brown bears, Kodiak bears, polar bears. Like, a black bear is honestly a pretty docile bear in the bear family,
Probably the
in my
easiest
opinion.
bear to deal with.
So don't take this information as,
But
I'm
not to be
sleeping
taken
in,
lightly.
the boreal forest with grizzly bears and all this is going to translate over, because it's not.
No.
So Mel did talk about, like, bear spray as well as bells, and I think you have a bell. Did you?
Right. No, I wanted to do a quick shout out because, again, we were in the Cape Breton Highlands for the last few days, and we did enjoy the national park there and did some hiking. And then I also, of course, hit the local gift shops. And one thing I don't have in my gear now is a bear bell. We usually just kind of take the more talking loudly while we're traveling approach because we're usually in pairs. So that's something you can do as a deterrent, is just kind of, don't walk so quietly through the woods unless you're tracking or something. But if you're just out on an adventure hike, be actively talking, be making noise, break the stakes, make the noise, talk with your friends, play your harmonica, do those things, because that'll, scare off just a bear that is just trying to protect her cubs. She'll steer them far away from you. She'll hear you coming. So my shout out that I wanted to give was to Cardinal Point Gifts in Pleasant Bay, which is a tiny little town nestled on the Cabot Trail between a bunch of mountains. And I found this really beautiful brass bear whistle, and it's
Bear bell.
sorry, a bear whistle. What am I saying? Bear bell. And it's beautiful, and I'm really excited to put it on my pack and wear it with pride from my time in the park. So, yeah.
Okay, and just two things from the comments to add on to what we already said. Chris Hilliard, not only not storing your food near your site, but not cooking near your campsite either, as we mentioned. And Dave, Real Big Monkey 1, if anybody wants to check out his channel, he's on YouTube there too. In Georgia mountains, they often run trolley lines across the river and hang food canisters over the river. The water spray dissipates the food smell. So that's something else to take in mind as well.
That's a great tip from another region too. Like again, we kind of recognize that our knowledge can be a little bit regional. So it's great to hear from people who are in different places who can do different things actively when they're out there. So thanks for sharing that.
And once again, if you have more information or questions, get in touch with us and we'll try and clear it up as best we can. But
jump on the lives. We're here.
All right, moving on. What's the next one on your list there, Millie?
Sorry.
I know.
We're on vacation, which is why we were hiking. So my vacay mode drink cup here is keeping me company. All right. I have what is the best bug spray?
And funny enough, I just got that one come in as well. So that's why I was curious if that one came up on yours. And honestly, it's kind of a personal opinion because I can tell you what the best bug spray is I have used and what I find works really well, which is going to come down to two things, maybe three things. For like an actual spray, and I mean spray, it's anything really high in DEET. The problem with these sprays is, one, DEET's not really great for you. Two, it's not really great for the environment. So if you do use something that's high in DEET, spray it on your clothes, trying to get it on your bear skin, your hat, things like that.
And it's also not recommended for children under 12, I believe. So if you're taking your children into the woods with you, keep in mind the chemicals that you're putting on them.
Exactly. So when it comes to sprays like that, what I like personally, Deep Woods Off, extra strength Deep Woods Off, and musk oil. And once upon a time, musk oil or muskol, however you want to say it, depending where you're from, they used to make a version that had like 55% DEET, and it would literally eat plastic.
Oh, goodness.
It was great stuff for keeping bugs away, but I can guarantee you it took years off my life.
Probably a carcinogen.
But, I mean, when it comes to actual chemical ones, those are the ones I like. I mean, you know me, I have numerous cans of bug spray around here. And honestly, Deep Woods Off and musk oil are the two I use when I go for DEET. If I want something that's non-DEET, for like Lily and something like that, the Skintastic stuff. That stuff's great. It's easy on kids. And any kind of, there's a few similar brands. I don't want to say knockoff brands. They're doing their own things. But there's a couple similar brands that we're going on with that.
Look at the active ingredients, because, we can say all the brands, but, I mean, if the ingredients are the same, it's probably the same. So, the one that I usually recommend for young children, because that's actually what I do in my day job, is work with young children, and especially outdoors, is Aggravating. So it's not DEET. It can be used on children, I believe, I want to say 6 months and up, which is probably the lowest age that you're going to find for a bug repellent chemical. And it's pretty widely available now. There's some name brand ones, and then there's also, just starting now to come into the market, some generic versions of the Aggravating ones. So I think it's like 20% Aggravating. I might be saying it wrong, but Icardin, something like that. So anyways, so that's, yeah, there you go. So that's usually the one I recommend if you have small children, if you want to give them some protection. We also used the stickers this weekend.
Yeah, this is an interesting product, and I did want to bring this up. Friends of ours that we went hiking with, if you go on Amazon and type in, it's literally like Mosquito Repelling sticker for kids. They're little smiley faces, and they have, different emotions on them, and you stick them on. And the way they told us to use them with the instructions that came in is one goes on your upper body, one goes on your lower body. I was amazed at how well these things worked. They were DEET free, they were strong in citronella.
I was gonna ask. That was my question. I was gonna ask you. What were the ingredients?
Citronella, lemongrass, and a few other things.
Okay,
But
so
the
like
package,
natural.
yeah, they were all natural. And that was another question we actually had, how well natural repellents work, and this will kind of work into that. Is
Yeah.
natural repellents, there are some things that naturally repel a lot of bugs. Lemongrass is a big one, mints are big, tea tree oil is big. For around your home, planting different things like marigold, lemongrass, I'm a big believer in lemongrass, and a few other ones, they really do work. And I mean, this is kind of a topic that you're going to do a little research, find out what grows in your area really well. I know marigolds are big here, and lemongrass, you can throw it on the ground, it'll basically grow, and that's what I like here.
Oh, Chris said pine is another.
Pine. Well, there you go. And the other Chris had mentioned Sawyer's as a spray-on chemical.
Oh,
And
yes.
Sawyer's does offer a product that you spray on your clothing. It's 20%.
That's the picaridin.
Picaridin.
Yeah, so there's picaridin, and I think there's icaridin as well.
Now, the good stuff or the good thing about this is if you can find it, because it is a little hard to find in Canada. It's more of an American product, but you can find it. You spray it on your clothes, you let it dry. It's good for, I think, 20 days or 10 washes.
Yeah,
Something like that. I can't remember the numbers exactly, but it does stay on. The problem with the stuff, though, and I will warn you, is if you use it around water, it'll block the ability for fish to breathe. Once it's dry, it's fine. It's also not great for some animals. You will find this product sold in farm stores. They sell it as a bug spray for horses or cattle a lot of times as well. The active ingredients are very similar, if not identical, and it's relabeled as something else. So you got to look into that. And actually, funny enough, family member chiming in here saying dryer sheets. They do work for some bugs. Mosquitoes and black flies, pretty good. Ticks, gnats, chickers, things like that. I haven't really found them to work so great. But black flies and mosquitoes, there is actually something to it.
We do have a local product here called Atlantic.
Atlantic, yes. And I kind of am going to be reaching out to them to see if I can get maybe some of the product and give it a try. Trust me, I know some places here in Nova Scotia that are polluted in ticks, and it won't take very long to find out how it works. I totally didn't spell that. Yeah, I was going to say that didn't look that well. Yeah, Chris. How do you say that, Mel?
It's paramethrin, I think.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
That's the Sawyer's one that I was talking about that comes in a spray.
Okay.
Sawyer's may make another one as well. Anyway, just look up Sawyer's bug spray, and it's going to be the one you know. And then if you just see it in Canada, you can buy it on Amazon occasionally. Ridiculously expensive. Or look at the active ingredients and find it at your farm aisle.
Right.
But do your own research and stuff like that. So anyway, we'll slash that one and we'll
I
move
did
on.
actually just kind of want to quickly add on that one, because after the bug spray was my other question that I got was, do natural repellents actually work on ticks, which we covered, but I wanted to just touch on it for your pets. So if you live in a heavily tick populated area, you should just do the tick treatment at your local vet. Yes, there's some natural things that you can put on your animals, but with Lyme disease becoming so prevalent, actually our dog Pickles caught Lyme disease 2 years ago now, and he had quite a host of kind of really scary symptoms happen really quickly. First he had Horner's eye, which his eye started to, the third eyelid didn't have the ability to retract anymore. So it looked like his eye was, closing in on him. And then shortly right after that, just before we had a chance to get that checked to see what was going on, he lost the use of 2 of his legs. So he went downhill really, really quickly. We got him into the vet. That was over the course of like a day.
Well, we sent him in for the Horner's eye. And then
it was the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So just get your pets the proper tick treatment yearly, as your vet would recommend. That's what I recommend for your pets.
Now, Chris mentions there might be a stone that repels ticks and nippers. This is news to me. I'll be willing to look into that and let you know what I find out.
Is it amber?
Could be. I'm not sure.
Is it amber, Chris? I know that there's I see a lot of amber necklaces and bracelets and anklets made for children. I didn't realize that was one of its uses, but it would make sense.
And Chris also mentioned that those stickers he uses on the pit bull when they work.
Yeah.
So that's good to know.
Yeah, that's mosquitoes and black flies can be awful on your pets. So making sure that they have some kind of a repellent for those guys as well as your tick treatment is definitely a really good idea if you're taking them out in the woods with you.
All right, let's keep on cranking down the list.
My last one. Oh, so this one is from my very best friend, and we've been friends for a very, very long time. But to look at us, we couldn't be more opposite. She is very light-skinned. She is very petite. She prefers to stay inside and read books in the winter. And she thinks that, sun is the devil. So she does not enjoy being outdoors. Camping and hiking and fishing and all those things that you and I love to do are not her cup of tea. So her question to me was, how do I make being outdoors enjoyable and more desirable for people who just hate it? So I know when you and I talked in our couples episode, we were talking about, bringing someone into the woods who maybe was a little bit unsure or who hadn't the same level of experience as you. But in this case, it's for someone who just kind of actively hates it. So I think the tips are pretty similar. I think it's about making it as comfortable as possible, making it as low demand as possible, being very prepared for what you're going to do and what's going to be required of the person, making your trip shorter, starting with, really good sun protection, proper clothing, making sure they have, footwear that's appropriate and comfortable. So, those things that just, as soon as you go outside, you hate it. Oh, it's too hot. Okay, well, let's go in a shaded hiking area. Oh, my feet hurt. Okay, well, let's get, really good hiking shoes for you. The bugs bite me. Okay, we already covered that. I'm scared of being outside at night in the woods. Bring flashlights. Bring your whatever makes you comfortable. There's a lot of different things that you can do for somebody who, just is not a fan. Obviously, if they we're not dragging them into the woods against their will. So now in Sarah's case, that might be the case. But if you kind of hate it, but also you want to try it, definitely just kind of those more short guided kind of experiences, making sure that they get to do what they want to do while they're out in the woods. Why do you want to go to the woods? What do you hope to accomplish? Do you just want to, say you spent a night in a tent? We can do that. I can make you comfortable. We don't have to go far from home. We can still make it an adventure. That kind of thing. What would you say to somebody who doesn't really want to go in the woods, but kind of would try it maybe?
The only thing I would add on top of what you did, because you covered everything great, was time of year. Best time of year for me in this area, Nova Scotia, to take somebody that's new into the woods and wants to have a good time, is going to be like early fall.
Right.
Bugs are starting to die down a little bit. Weather's still warm during the day. Little cooler at night. Not cold, but cooler at night so they can snuggle into their sleeping bags and stuff and not have the heat and the humidity and the waking up feeling wet and all of that crap.
Waking up sun-baked in your tent.
So early fall tends to be a good time. And I mean, it used to be like September, October, but now those months are even getting warmer. So kind of just keep an eye on the weather trending and look for when it's going to be warmer and drier in the day. Humidity still down a little bit. But a little cooler at night. So cooler at night, anywhere around 5 to 7 degrees is my happy temperature. If you're bringing a bigger sleeping bag, if they're bringing like a lighter sleeping bag, you may want to up that to 10, 15 degrees.
Making sure they're prepared. Don't expect them to prepare themselves if they...
Don't just say grab your stuff and come on in. Literally go through what they have and kind of work with that.
Tell them what to bring specifically. Be very, very specific and make sure that you help. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Sarah? Would that get you into the woods? You let me know.
So, I think that finishes off what you had on your list.
Yeah, that's what I have for right now. I'll check my messages, but you go ahead and start on yours,
Perfect.
And I'll chime in.
So, the first one I had was dealing with poison ivy when trapped in the woods and how to address the issue. We did touch on this way back when we first started our podcast, but first and foremost, be aware of what poison ivy looks like. We have like poison ivy, poison oak, poison sumac, things like that. If you're going into areas and you're on shore, a little research online and know where this stuff grows, what it looks like, and then just avoid it, and then it's not an issue. However, I mean, it's all happened at night. You might be, going out to relieve yourself or something like that. You stumble into a small patch, gets on your legs, and there you are. You know what I mean? And not everybody reacts to this stuff as bad as other people. Like, I've known people, they could handle poison ivy and it didn't bother them. You know what I mean? Like, very mildly. Myself, if I get it like from the wrist down, it really doesn't bug me that much. I have to know that I got to wash my hands, and you got to remember what's coming off this is oils. So straight water will not always get rid of the oils on your
Right.
skin. So you do need some sort of soap, or you need some charcoal, something that's a little aggressive.
Do not touch other parts of your body with your infected part of your body. You know, you don't want to be spreading those oils around. Those are oils coming off of that
Exactly.
plant that's causing that chemical reaction with your skin. So
And
making
that's
sure that
generally
chemical
what
doesn't
happens is
travel.
people get it on their hands or
And
legs,
then just rub
and
it
then they
all
start
over.
scratching their legs, and then
Yeah.
they start moving their hands. So be anytime you get real itchy and it looks rash-like, if you're scratching it, at that point, doesn't matter if it's poison ivy or not. Start isolating your hands in case it is something that's
Yeah,
transmittable,
start
and you
soap
don't
and
want it
water.
to start going around.
You want to use a
Soap
mild
and water,
soap and water and get everything clean.
Mud will also provide a little bit of soothing coolness to it.
And a barrier.
And it'll get rid of some of the itching, and it'll create a little bit of a barrier. I mean, in a pinch, water with crushed up charcoal will do something similar. Charcoal is a natural filtering. It'll absorb some of the oils and stuff like that. But honestly, the best thing you can do is soap and water, mild soap and water. Gently scrub the area. You don't want to get it in there with like a, scrub brush or something like
No.
that and make things worse. But gently wash the area. And then calamine lotion and stuff like that. That's actually made for like topical solutions for stuff like that. It's going to be your best bet. When we go into the woods, we always have a little bit of calamine lotion just in case.
I also carry the Benadryl spray. There's people who still don't know that Benadryl spray is a thing. And if I could put one thing on a billboard, it would probably be that, because it's amazing. So I have an issue with anything that may cause drowsiness. Will just, take me down and out for the full day. So Benadryl is something that I really have to evaluate if I need to take it. Because if I need to take it, I'm done for at least like 24 hours. It's really strong for me. But there's a Benadryl spray. And, again, I'm not usually one to push brand names, but in this case I will, and I do, and it's fantastic. It's just it's not even an aerosol, it's just
It's a spritzing
spritz.
container.
I probably have one I can show you here in a second. I'm sure I took it with me because we used it several times. But yeah, anything that just starts to get really itchy and it looks like it's having some kind of a reaction above and beyond, just kind of being itchy, that will take care of it. So usually it will take care of it. I want to say just to not mix the oral with the spray. That's two different dosing methods, but both doses will be entering your body. So do be mindful that just because, it was topical, I can also take the oral. I'm not a doctor, but do read the instructions, because there are some, you can give yourself too much there if you get going crazy with it. So, under advice of a doctor for that kind of thing. But yeah, I really like to start with the spray.
Yeah, and that's honestly, that's the simplistic answer for that. I mean, big thing with poison ivy and oak and stuff like that is just be aware of it and acknowledge what it looks like and what the conditions are that it grow in, and just try to avoid them. I mean, sometimes there's no getting away from it, but if you can know what it looks like and, keep long pants on, stuff like that, a lot of times won't get to your skin.
It kind of cross-sects with the bear question in this regard. Be prepared for what you may encounter in the area that you're exploring. So, are there any predatory animals? Are there any dangerous plants? Are there, knowing these things and what could be in the area, what they look like, what to do if you encounter them, that pre-planning piece is really important. That was it. Yeah.
Okay.
Really important.
Like I said, well, that's the quick and dirty of that one. Once again, if you need more information, get a hold of us.
Yeah.
We can recommend some better research on that. I think Natural Resources now, Lands and Forestry
I know,
now
they keep changing their
offers
name.
some information on their website about poison ivy and where it's located in Nova Scotia if you're in this area as well. So moving on. Next question. Is taking pets in the woods tricky? Do they attract or deter wildlife? First and foremost, I'm going to say it depends on the animal as to how tricky it is. If you have a dog or anything you're going to be taking into the woods that naturally runs away, doesn't come back when they're called, wanders, chases things, stuff like that, probably not the best pet to take in the woods.
A well-trained pet is a fantastic companion in the woods, but you do need to make sure that your pet has, at the bare minimum, basic recall. I think I would not take an animal into the woods that did not have basic recall. Even our fat old 9-year-old dog Pickles knows the touch command, which means he will return from wherever he is, come all the way back to me and make physical contact with my hand and wait for me to give him further, kind of guidance. He has very good recall for that specific purpose, because it's just so dangerous. I mean, even, just on a roadway or whatever, if he starts to wander away, I mean, he comes back. So imagine you were in an encounter with a bear. You're trying to follow all the things in your pamphlet here to back away slowly and to not be aggressive. If you have a dog that's barking and charging at the bear with no recall and, is just going loopy,
making things worse,
you're going to make your situation a whole lot worse really fast.
Now, on the other side of this, like I said, well-trained animal,
Right.
I don't know about deter or attract, because honestly, it's just another animal in the woods. You can make your own assumption about that. However, they can give you a little warning, and for smaller animals, they will deter them a little bit. Like if you're sleeping with a dog and stuff, you're probably less likely to have squirrels and raccoons, rabbits, and stuff like that fluttering around your website, because they will get a smell of that predatory smell. Even though most of our dogs are not predators.
Our dog Pickles is being babysat right now, and she just sent me a picture. So this is Pickles, for anyone who can see and is not just on the podcast. This is Pickles. He's a 9-year-old Boston Terrier. He's adorable. Okay, go ahead.
But no, taking Pickles into account here, we used to have 3 Boston Terriers, which was Baby Girl, Dot, and Pickles. We used to go camping at the waterfall, which you've seen in previous videos from us. Once we got off the main path, we never leashed them, because they all responded very well to commands. They didn't chase wildlife. They knew where we were going. They stayed on trails. They didn't wander off. They were great pets that way. They would come down. They would spend weekends with us, like days at a time. Never be a problem. We let them in the tent at night. Had their own beds. We kind of washed them in the river and kept them cooled off. We always had them treated, though, for ticks and stuff like that. And we always provided, you can get like pet-style bug repellent collars and stuff like that. That way they're comfortable as well, because you don't want to drag a pet in and have them getting eaten alive.
Yeah, we made that mistake the very first time we took our dog out.
Baby Girl,
we just didn't think about it. We had our first one dog that time, and she was harassed by the mosquitoes, and we felt terrible. We ended up just having to like put her in the tent for like a day, and it was no fun. Good. It was no fun for anyone. We felt so bad for her.
So Chris Hillier heard that dog urine can deter foxes, coyotes, and other smaller animals from around your campsite, and that comes back to the predator type thing.
Yeah, I guess it would be marking their territory, right? A coyote's not going to want to enter another dog's.
And that's kind of it. However, larger dogs like potentially huskies and German shepherds may. There are animals, Kai dogs and stuff like that. It might, if that's a thing in your area, it might breed some interest. I don't know. But I know I've never had any real problems taking an animal in the woods.
We did actually hear locally a couple of years ago, just down the road from us, a few houses, there was a German Shepherd who was attacked by a black bear. They blamed it on the bear, of course. It was nosing around green bins, doing bear stuff. But this is a dog who is, I'm going to say he's known for kind of running after
wandering and chasing?
Running after anything that goes by, be it, a family walking with their kids or the mailman or, a bear in his backyard. And he was, a very aggressive chaser. And we know that, the last thing you want to do is run / charge at a bear. You're asking for trouble.
And for anybody wondering, the dog was only
he was
mildly
injured.
Yeah,
he ended up being fine. He's still down there barking now if I open my window, I'm sure.
But
yeah, that's, how much do you blame on the bear and how much do you blame on the maybe poorly trained animal?
And I know Ben, he takes his dog.
Right.
Faithfully, not faithfully, I guess, but very often going hammock camping and stuff like that, because he says it's like carrying a little heater.
Yeah,
so
that'd be true, yeah.
Once again, I think the question boils down to the demeanor and the training of your animal. Do they have to be the most obedient animal on the planet and gone through obedience school and stuff like that?
Recall.
No, but they have to have basic recall and understand basic things like not chasing animals, stay on paths.
No means no.
Yep. And I think that's the easiest way to sum that up. It's going to be animal specific, and it's going to relate on you.
Is taking them in the woods tricky? I mean, the only other thing I would add is maybe think about what you're going to be doing. So, if you're going to be rappelling down a cliff face, is your dog prepared for that?
Or are they comfortable staying in a pack while you go down?
Can they stay in your backpack while you climb? I mean, some dogs do. These are things that, that dogs, our companions do with us. But,
I don't think it's ever tricky. I think it just adds another element you have to be prepared for into it.
Yeah, you need to take your dog's we're saying dog, but I mean, yeah, you could take a
Cats,
horse.
horse.
There's a lot of people that do adventures on on horsings. Whew, it's been a
Horseback.
long day. Yeah, so there's a lot of different things you just kind of want to be mindful of, that you have to take their comfort and their ability and their willingness to participate actively in your outing into account, I think. We definitely don't want our animals to get injured. We definitely want them to be treated for any of the, the ticks in the area or what have you. We definitely want them to be comfortable while they're staying with us. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that, once again, it's kind of a quick and dirty answer.
Yeah. Is it tricky? No, it just adds...
It just adds something else that you have to be aware of.
You need to think about.
And don't think of them as, oh, it's just my pet. Like, this is another living creature you're bringing, and you have to prepare for their needs. So make sure they have water, they have food, they're protected from the elements at night if they're going to be sleeping with you or whatever, and that they're protected from the bugs and stuff, so they're not get chewed up. Because, I mean, they're out there to have a good time. You want their companionship. Worry about them a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So... once again, just keep trucking.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was kind of a unique one that we got in, and is what would be the best way to cure your meat without attracting unwanted animals? So it's kind of a loaded question.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing some stuff in the woods then, aren't you?
So the best way to cure your meat without attracting unwanted animals, honestly, be do it at home with a proper meat curing device.
Right.
Like a dehydrator. But I mean, if you were in the woods, let's see. I'll get back to that one.
Oh, we just got a new question.
Yep.
We're just trying to
Somebody
find
just
here.
sent me a message and I was just opening it up. So I'll get to that in a second. So, yeah, curing meat in the woods. There's only a couple ways to really go about it. And I'm assuming what this is in a survival situation, you get yourself a little larger game and you want to store some of that meat. So you can sun dry stuff or you can smoke dry stuff. The better way of doing it, not potentially the best way, but the better way, in my opinion, is smoke curing, because it's a little easier to maintain the smoke and the temperatures. Sun drying stuff is great for berries and stuff like that, making your own dehydrator, solar dehydrators and stuff like that. It can be done for meat. There's a knack to it. I don't have the best knack to it, but smoking is the best. The smoke will generally create enough of a deterrent behind the food smell to usually keep most animals at bay. Once again, some animals are going to be curious and stuff like that, and there's always the debate, does a fire deter animals or does it attract curiosity? But honestly, if you're drying meat in the wild, you are dealing with meat in the wild, and if something smells it, they're potentially going to be interested in getting it.
Say the scavengers are going to know that the animal is dead before you start curing it. So do it quickly is kind of the key, and to move it and to store it in a way that they can't get it.
And like I said, solar dehydrating, if you have the setup for it and you have the availability, there's lots of ways you can, make hobo dehydrators and stuff like that. And there's lots of great videos on YouTube, but they don't have anything to cover the smell of what's being dried. It does kind of make a different drying job. In some aspects better, some aspects worse. But getting back to the source of the question, let's just go with smoke drying. And I'm not going to get into how to, accomplish all of it, but generally it's you make a small fire, you build a little teepee over it, you put greenery around it, you hang your meat in there so high up, you keep your fire at such a level, and that generally will keep your heat to a certain degree in the area where your meat is going to be cured, but it also gives it a little bit of a smoky flavor, and that smoky flavor will also kind of cover up some of the smell of the meat. So my personal opinion, not this is the final word on this, but my personal opinion probably be like some sort of smoking method. That's what I would do in that situation.
Yeah. I mean, the question is loaded. What's the best way to cure your meat without attracting unwanted animals? The animals already know. You're trying to get it. The curing it is just to kind of get it prepared so that you can put it away from the animals quickly. If you're in the woods hunting and processing an animal, and storing an animal in the woods, the other animals are going to know about it. So it's just doing it in a way that is as safe as possible and kind of as quick as possible and as secure as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
seen a
mean,
lot of Alone episodes that involved trying to process their meat and how fast the scavengers just come in
Move
and
in.
are very aware that, you know, there's a downed animal and they want it.
Mm-hmm.
So
and the other option of this is even if you successfully smoke the meat, storing it
Storing it,
afterwards
yeah.
is another
That's what I keep saying.
thing. You know what I mean?
I'll be
So.
back.
I think that's the best way I can answer that question without getting into a whole rabbit hole of other avenues to take down there. So hopefully that's somewhat of an interest. Once again, if you want a little bit more in-depth information, definitely shoot us a message. We can chat about it, and you know,
Right.
we'll go into it a little bit more.
We got a live question. They asked if it was water in my cup, and the answer is no. We have a local company called Cold Stream that makes an amazing lemon gin soda. We did say ask us anything, and that's what the questions were asked. It's delicious. I highly recommend it. Also, my dad messaged and said that, as far as he knows, human urine deters coyotes.
Potentially.
So there you go.
You know what? I don't have a lot of research to back it up, but just by talking to people in the woods and stuff like that, I'm sure there is a basis of truth behind urine deterring stuff. And some even the great survivalists out there with TV shows and stuff have touched on it. You know what? I don't know how much... I don't know. I legitimately don't know. Worst case, it's not hurting anything. So go to it, and if it does help
I mean,
a
you're
little
going
bit,
to be
there you
peeing in
go.
the woods anyway, so if it deters the coyotes, then, you know, bonus points, as far as I'm concerned.
And Christian Lopez just said, I'm not going to lie, I pee on my property and still get coyotes here. And that was always my...
All right.
Like, when I lived in Miragamish, yeah, it's a little secluded lot. I peed everywhere around there, not going to lie. Still had coyotes come in, like, nonstop. You know what I mean? They may even come in to investigate the smell. I don't know. But, once again, might be... Are you in an area where these animals are used to humans to begin with and are used to that smell?
Yeah.
If you're out in the woods and they're not really used to the
Sorry
human
for all
smell...
the message sounds, guys. We're obviously trying to interact with you guys tonight, so there's a lot of motion in the ocean over here.
No,
All right.
so yeah, I don't know on that. What were we actually answering? Oh yeah, the curing.
Get so into it.
yeah, that's my 2 cents on curing. So I'm gonna bump on to the next one.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, because we do got more and more coming in.
Yeah, I can't wait. This is great, you guys. Thanks
Apparently
for jumping
they
in.
aren't supposed to cross that line. Kathy Hubley, that'd be Jeff's significant other, wife, commenting on that. I can tell you, I have peed in a spot down in Miragamish a ton. Without getting into it too far, we had a school bus down there, which when we were in our teenage years was the hangout zone, and there was a spot we always peed, and I can guarantee you the coyotes ran through that just as much as anywhere else.
Nice.
So I don't know. Once again, they're in an area where they're around people and they know the smell, so that might have a
Maybe.
lot to do with it.
Maybe
You know what I
so,
mean?
yeah.
Because I can remember standing out my deck having a smoke when I smoked, and you could look in the woods and you could see the eyes going by. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
they're
that might be different
really
than, like,
close
out
contact with
in
people.
this secluded, you know, park or something where humans aren't as
So,
active.
anyway, moving on. What about cleaning salt water so that you can drink it?
Oh.
So, there's...
Desalinization.
Desalinization. There's a couple different ways of doing this, so let's look at this as one... you're not in a survival situation, in which case you can actually get a device that does this for you.
Right.
It's called a desalination device or something like that. They use them very often on boats.
Right, of course.
To produce drinkable water. You can look those up, YouTube it, Google it. That'll be your friend. They'll give you a way better explanation than I will, but basically...
They exist.
Yeah.
Check it out.
The other way would be like some sort of still, and this is going to be survival situation. You're stranded on tropical island, and you got to try and get drinkable
Drink that
water.
Yeah.
So you got to build a still, and hopefully, you know, your old moonshining days come back to help you out here. But basically, you have to boil the water and catch the condensation somehow, or at least get the water to evaporate, leaving the salt behind. Yeah. Les Strad has a great video on this, digging a hole in the ground, filling it with salt water, covering it with plastic, and you can drink the condensation. So what it's called is a solar still.
Thanks, Christian.
You dig a hole. You need some sort of collection device in the middle of the hole, and you require a piece of plastic. So basically, you dig a hole, put your water in there, put your cup in the middle that's going to collect it, put your tarp or preferably clear plastic over the whole thing, weight it down, and then put a rock in the middle so the lowest point of the tarp drips right above your catch container, and anything that drips down is going to be drinkable water. However, these do require hot, sunny temperatures, and they don't produce the most amount of water that you can get very quickly. Actually, you'll probably put more effort. You'll burn more water trying this, in a lot of cases, than what you'll get in the correct climates to do this. Not that it's a bad idea. It's better than no water. Don't get me wrong. It's just you're definitely going like last ditch effort here. There's other ways of bypassing this altogether and putting the plastic around needles and stuff like that and collecting the condensation from there.
There's a lot of plants that have a high water content in some
Yep.
of these areas that
The
you
other thing
can
is-
know about. Again, being prepared and knowing the natural species that are in your area and what they could provide for you.
The other thing is, where was I going with that? Yeah, you don't necessarily need salt water with this method. You can kind of sort of recycle your own urine with this. You pee in the hole around your collection device, and it'll actually evaporate the drinkable water out of that and put back into it. So yeah, that's called solar stilling. But it kind of boils down to you have to distill the water somehow. So if you have the setup, boiling the water, being able to collect that condensation, recondense it down into a drinkable liquid is going to be your best bet. And you can do that
Don't drink your straight pee,
Don't
guys.
drink your straight pee.
I don't care what a certain celebrity says about this. I won't name names, but you know who he is. Don't do it.
It's do the research on it. That's all I'm going to say about it.
I don't know.
Just
In my unprofessional opinion, it is not worth it.
do the research on it. I tend to agree with Melissa. It's not your best option. You'll probably make things worse. However, not a trained specialist. This is my own 2 cents with my own research based on the subject and probably a lot of backing from a lot of doctors and stuff like that. However, that's not to say that it is the correct opinion for you. I encourage you to do your own research on that. But getting back to the distilling method, if you are able to do it, a very simple distilling option. Have a container, boil the water in it. If you have bark or something like that where the majority of the steam will collect, so you can peel the bark off a softwood tree or a down tree, birch bark, something like that. Create a gully so that it all basically boils up. The steam catches that. Goes into 100% effective? Absolutely not. It's full of holes. But it will get you a significant amount of drinking water in a relatively short amount of time. However, you are going to need a container to boil the water in, the ability to start that fire, and a second container to be able to collect the water in.
Yeah.
So distilling salt water is tricky business. Definitely not the best option.
If you're lucky enough to have all the bits and pieces and bobs and baubles that you need to kind of make it as easy as possible, then yes, it's great. But I mean, definitely be looking around trying to figure it out. If there's any kind of a freshwater source, regardless of how infected with bacteria it may be, it's probably easier to take that dirty water and make it drinkable than it is to take salt water and make it drinkable if you're in a situation where you're just trying to piece things together and make it work. Either way, if you can make a fire, obviously boiling is just way easier. But if it's salt water is the only resource you have, it's the only option. If you need to do it and you have the things available, you can do it. You can definitely do it.
And I am getting an error here for some reason that's saying that there might be some buffering issues. Can anybody let me know if there's a problem going on? Because everything
guys,
looks good on my end. Not that you won't get the show. There might just be a delay while it buffers, quote unquote. So anyway, we're going to keep going through.
Okay.
Now, I just did have a question come in via email.
Ooh, email.
And this is from a buddy of mine, Luke. He says, hey, going camping the next 4 to 5 days. Just wondering if there's any last-minute knickknacks to have that I may forgot to bring. Thanks. Excited to see how hiking with the kids is going to be. Actually, Luke, we did a great episode on this last week. So if you got a sec, check that out. But some of the things that I'm going to recommend that you take, that we always take, deck of cards. It's great fun for you and the significant other, and if kids know any games like Go Fish or Solitaire, it gives them something to do. The other thing that I'm definitely going to recommend that you take is the bug spray and toilet paper, or what we always say is wet wipes.
Right.
They don't, or, if you're us, it's just baby wipes because it's way cheaper and it's the same thing.
Same thing. The Benadryl spray, as if my previous comment wasn't obvious enough. Band-Aids, always pack your Band-Aids, especially when you're with kids. They fall down all the time. They get their scraped up knees all the time. And as soon as that blood starts to come out, they might as well be losing the leg because they're going to treat it like it is. So anything that you have, take their favorite character Band-Aids. That can really cheer them up. Anything that makes it a little bit easier for them to deal with the potential harshness of being outside is definitely the way to go. Knickknacks.
Yes, sir,
I'm just trying to think what.
All right, we think the buffering issue just decided to go away. It cropped up and went away just as interesting as it did.
This kind of comes into your next, the 10 must-have things in your gear bag. So, I mean...
You know what? I saved this one to the last because this is a classic question that gets asked in Bushcraft all the time, or
you
camping,
can
or
fight about
hiking,
it,
or
and
whatever.
You can change your
This
lips,
is so debatable as to what the 10 best are.
Knickknacks for kids camping.
Yeah,
here,
honestly, the knickknacks, look at last week's episode. We talked about a lot of them.
To make it
Instead of
comfortable,
rehash
the
that
pleasure
episode, it's
things.
literally fresh and it's right there and it's being uploaded to all the podcasting sources tonight. Because if anybody knows, our podcasts, we do them live, and then if you just listen, you get it a week late.
Right.
So.
And so last week was pastimes to pass the time, and it was just all about those kind of pleasant, moral boosting, unnecessary items, that you want to take to the woods to make it more enjoyable. So that was last episode. That definitely is a good one to look at if you're just wondering, what else could I bring that would make this more fun?
I did have one more question before I want to jump into this 10 things, because I'm going to be real quick on that 10 things because it's so debatable. I forgot to write this one down because it was just weird the way it was worded, and I kind of want to put it in my own words, which is basically, have you tried any of the hokey or gimmicky, quote unquote, methods of getting drinking water? And honestly, yes, I have. And there's a couple that come down as very reliable. If you're looking for an option to just filter the water, very little work, Sawyer Mini or any of the Sawyer products. Yeah. There's other ones too, but the Sawyer Mini, best bang for the buck that I have found. Like, there's other ones that work potentially better, or whatever. I wouldn't even go with better. They're just maybe a little simpler. I don't know. I can't. But anyway, the Sawyer Mini, super simple. Does like 150,000 gallons of water, and does 99.999% of bacteria, viruses, and stuff like that. However, keeping in mind that you still have to think about what's in that water. If you're downstream from a farm, it's not really going to get out pesticides and stuff like that, because what it does is it uses very, very small openings that most of the stuff can't pass through, but water still will, and filters it out. However, some of the stuff is water soluble when you get into synthetics, and it will come through. So, pesticide stuff like that would not be taken through with that. There are ones that are like charcoal enabled ones that would be a little better for that, but still pesticides and sprays and manure and things like that. It's hard to get rid of that stuff. The gray, how do you say that word, Mel? That's the one I was trying to think of. The GeoPress.
The Grail?
The Grail GeoPress was the other one I was thinking of. Sweet system. Little bit expensive for what you're getting with it, in my opinion, Chris. Not that it's bad, and if you have one, like I would love to have one. But bang for buck, I can get a Sawyer Mini they go on sale for like $26 and does 150,000 gallons of water. And 90% of the places I'm gonna go, I can literally just put the straw attachment on, drink the water, and I'm good to go. Life Straw, it's another one. It was big for a while. It's the same kind of dealio. You stick it in the water, you drink it back up. I think it's only good for around 10,000 gallons or maybe less. It's just a smaller item. Works on similar technology. All of these things, they work good.
The Sawyer Squeeze.
That's a good one. Sawyer Squeeze, sorry. There are good ones there, and honestly, a lot of them work. There's the ones to avoid are the ones that seem oversimplistic. In all honesty, like I've seen some overseas knockoffs that is like it's basically a straw and it has a sheet of carbon in the middle of it.
It's like
not going to do a lot for you. You know what I mean?
Piece of carbon in it. It's not going to.
But yeah, long story short, I've tried a lot of these hokey and gimmicky things, and it works great. And you don't need something fancy like that to get good drinking water or drinkable water. Let's not go with good. Drinkable water. Boiling will kill a lot of your pathogens and stuff like that too. A lot of people say 5-minute rolling boil, and I'm not going to tell you right or wrong. Other people say as soon as it reaches a boil, you're fine. Most things die at the boiling temperature. However, they say by extending it, you're guaranteeing that everything in the container gets up to that temperature. So
and you have to have a container. So
exactly.
You're back to if all you have is a plastic bottle.
Well, you can boil water in a plastic bottle.
True enough.
You can also make natural filters by literally making natural filtering systems. Is you're starting with the largest material and getting down to the finest material. And I'm not going to describe the process because it's fairly lengthy and there's a lot of technology in it. It'd be a great episode for somewhere else or a brief topic or just YouTube it. But you can make filters that'll take a lot of stuff out, and you can put some really gross looking water in the top, and it'll come out crystal clear at the bottom. Once again, I would still recommend boiling that water even after it comes out of that filter.
Yeah.
So
Boiling's
boiling
always
is
key
kind of
to
the
do it.
go-to if you got the container to do it. You don't always necessarily need a steel container. You can boil water in like a hollowed out stump or something like that by heating stones up and dropping it in, and at least you get the temperature up. Yada yada yada. Tons of great videos on that. But boiling is the number one go-to. Hokey products, as the question stated. I'm a fan of Sawyer. Sawyer Mini, like I said, I got mine for $26. Love it.
Yeah.
The MSR infrared pen, who actually trusts that, from Dave. Like that's the kind of stuff I'd be leery on. I don't know. Maybe the stuff is great. I don't honestly know.
I don't know either.
I haven't done the research on it. I did do the research on the Sawyer Mini because it was kind of the thing I look for because it was tiny. I think it's over there, but I'm not going to worry about it.
It's something
tiny.
you just have in your pack.
And
that,
it just
again,
works.
if you get lost in the woods, you weren't planning to be out overnight, for example, say, and you brought one plastic bottle of water with you, and now you're beside a river, but the beavers built a dam right there. You shouldn't drink it. What am I going to do? If you have the Sawyer Mini at the bottom of your pack,
And when in doubt, if
helps.
you filter through the Sawyer and you want a little added security, boil it then.
Yeah.
I mean, you're double dipping then. You're definitely going to get it. But
I
I
mean,
mean,
that's
I carry
providing
the
you don't
Sawyer
even
in
have
the
a fire
the
starter.
ATV, and I have taken it out of the back and literally laid down and taken
In a
a
mud
drink in a
puddle.
stream.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much a mud
can
puddle.
mud puddle
Oh
it.
yeah, you can, but I haven't.
You can.
Once again, I tend to try and go with moving water.
Well.
But Anyway, so moving on to the last one, the 10 must-have things for your gear bag for an overnight camping trip. And once again, massively debated. This is going to be dependent on so much. Where you're going, what time of year it is, who's going with you, are you going by yourself? I mean, there's a ton of stuff that's going to go into this, but I'm going to keep it very simple. I'm going to go with the KISS method on this. Keep it simple, stupid. I'm going to go, and I'm just listing these off. This might not even hit 10.
I don't even know if I'm going to have 10.
A cutting utensil.
Of course.
Some cordage. Only because, if you want to tie something up, even to hang your shorts if you went for a swim, I like to hang it instead of throwing it over a limb because we have a lot of softwood around here and then you get, balsam and stuff like that on it. It's just not cool. Or if you need to tie something together, fix your backpack, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So cutting cordage container, simple as just keeping a drink in it, or if you do need to boil water, blah, 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 blah. A device for making fire, Bic lighter, you can't beat those. You just, flick the Bic and it works.
Mm-hmm.
I like a bandana, because a bandana has a ton of uses. I wear one. My green one is literally worn out to the point where it's falling apart in the center. I've used it to fix gear. I've used it to tie stuff together. I've used it as an impromptu mask when I had to go in during COVID. I mean, I use it for everything.
And then
so
we've
bandana's
also
just great.
used bandanas to make char cloth. You can use it as a dressing for a wound. There's a lot of things that can help you out with.
And those are the big 5, I would say. But on top of that, and I mean, there is another way to look at this. If you go, I'm not going to say who it is because I don't know if I want to get into that battle. But there is somebody that says the 5 C's.
Right.
And that's going to fall very into that because it does make a little bit of stuff sensible. Wait, you mean beaver fever isn't fun? No.
I've had Giardia. I have had Giardia, beaver fever. It is not fun. And the worst course of it is bad enough. But the part that people forget about is the, weeks to months that it actually will drag on afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Giardia is not a fun infection to fight in your body. It is not nice.
It's like food poisoning.
Do not get the beaver fever if you can help it.
So hit the 5. Now,
Okay.
the 5 other ones, I would say, is going to be a good bug spray.
Sure.
I would also like a flashlight.
Mm-hmm.
Is a good one to have. I know a lot of people are going, well, you have a method of starting a fire. That's going to give you light. You know what? A flashlight just works. You know what I mean?
It does.
I prefer to have some sort of waterproof covering. So be it a shelter or whatever, your tarp, your shelter.
I mean, if you're planning an
something
overnight
like that.
trip, right? You're gonna plan something to sleep in. That's gonna be part of it. So be it a tent, be it a hammock with a, what do you call it?
Ridgeline?
Ridgeline, thank you. Over top of it, you're going to have your plan for your sleeping system, whatever it is. So.
Yeah. And believe it or not, the last couple things I'm going to throw in, and these are not like the necessary stuff to go camping. These are the niceties that I think you should have when you're going. A change of socks. I mean, a whole change of clothes. Best. Chains of socks and underwear
Anytime you
minimum.
leave the house, just socks is important. Yeah. If you get wet ones, no fun. You need to change it.
And some way of keeping yourself clean.
Right.
is another one I would throw in there. So I mean, we've looked at the soap flakes and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
I mean, wet wipes, you can wipe yourself down with those.
We
And
always have we have the little pack of this soap. This
yeah,
soap. I don't know what you call
or
it.
you can make
Little
your
soap
own with
sheets.
literally a cheese slice, or
Yeah.
not a cheese slicer, but a grater. And
Cheese slicer.
I'm trying to think the big
I
wide
know.
wedge on the box grater there. You just it hammers off. But you know what? Being cleaned up feels really nice in the woods, especially like I love being in the smoke and smelling like it and stuff like that. But after I've been banging around all day and getting sweaty and covered in bug spray and you got that soap or the smoke residue on you, you just basically develop this layer of film on your entire body.
Mm-hmm.
And you just want to clean up. And not only that, it's like good hygiene is healthier for you. You're going to have a lot less infections and stuff like that, as well as it's going to stop chafing.
Yeah.
And a lot of your nether
You're
regions
just
and
going to
stuff
cause
like
more
that.
troubles for yourself
So-
when you try to get up and go the next day and you haven't been properly cleansed from the day before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last thing
I
was
have
one
some
that
more
Chris
things.
Hillier just said there too, is something to keep your mind busy. So just something to do, and I mean that can be as simple as whittling
That
or
was the
reading.
last episode,
or-
Chris.
Yeah, once again,
That's
same
the
thing.
one thing you put in your pack that's unnecessary, but for your own mental kind of stimulation or just kind of sense of security or for your own hobby or pastime or passion, that one thing you put in your bag that you don't need it to survive, but you take it because it's fun or because you want to or because you like it or because it gives you something to do. That's important. Like I said, I always have a deck of cards in my pack. They're dorky little plastic waterproof Santa Claus cards, I think, right now. But they're always in the bottom of my pack, and I always take them with me. Always. I have a couple things you didn't say.
How about her?
Oh. I always take gloves. I have touched on this, I think, every time I've been on the show, especially for us soft-handed folk. A set of gloves is just something you need to have. I also had a compass. Or your GPS or whatever your orienteering device is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's important to have with you so that if you do feel like, I might not know where I am or where I'm going, you can double check. A whistle is something I always have. We talked about it for bear security. We've talked about it for if I'm lost and I need to alert people. It's also great, like, even if you're just hiking, camping with others, you can, develop your own little whistle call sign when it's time to report to the camp or whatever. Toilet paper I always have. I can go with wet wipes either or, it's fine, but I usually always have just kind of, if you take the center roll out of a toilet paper, take the cardboard roll out, you can squish the entire roll down into like a little sandwich, and then you jam that in a Ziploc bag, and it's like super flat and it's really small. That's how I carry toilet paper, and it saves space. So there's your little pro tip.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and a first aid kit was the other thing I had on here. And that's probably because couples camping, I'm first aid girl usually. So I always have the first aid kit in my pack, which is probably why he didn't think of it, because I always have it.
No, I generally always have a first aid at the bottom of
Yeah.
my pack along with an emergency ration.
Yeah.
It's granted for me. I don't even think about it
I know, I
anymore.
was thinking about the stuff that kind of lives at the bottom of my pack that I never change out. Because those are the things, what's your 10 must-have things? You'll try to get all fancy with the stuff you could pull off your shelf and put in, but it's the stuff that's kind of always buried at the bottom of your bag because you know it's there and you know you want it in case you need it. Those are the important things that you just every time you go out, you just never take them out of your bag, and they start to kind of accumulate, and by the end of, a few adventures, you've usually kind of formed your own personal opinion on your 10 must-haves, and it, like Robert said, it's different for everyone, and it's those things that just kind of never come out of your pack because you feel like they're important every time you go out.
And that's just it. Everything we gave you is nothing more than a suggestion. As you go out, you're going to find out what the 10 must-haves for
you.
Melissa is different than what the 10 must-haves are for me. And what the 10 must-haves for us is going to be different than what the must-haves are for you. You're going to learn what works for you and what you want in the woods. And I mean, like Chris said,
I say toilet paper, but maybe somebody is just like, man, I've always used these leaves
moss,
in my region.
And
Like,
you're
I've
good.
never looked for toilet paper. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It's not something, I'll wash up at the end of the day and it'll be fine kind of thing. And there's people like that who are just super comfortable with using natural materials and they don't even give it a second thought. It is, a developed world luxury. It's not something that you need to survive in any stretch of the imagination. But for me, when I hit any sort of adventure, be it day adventure, be it overnight, be it a week-long, excursion, I have the toilet paper for that trip. I don't care. It's there. It happens. So, yeah, I mean, it's different for everyone, like you said, and the things that are important to you are the things that, will get you through.
Yep. And I think that's probably the best place to end it at all. We're at an hour and 15 minutes,
Perfect.
which was lengthier than I thought. I thought we were going to burn through it a little
I was
quicker.
concerned about how many questions we were going to get in, and then all of a sudden we got a lot, and you guys have been, jumping on and adding to it, and that's perfect.
So yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for the questions. If there's anything else you want us to answer, just keep sending the messages in, and maybe we can do follow up to this at some other time.
Yeah.
The only thing I want to add into the end of this episode is now with COVID restrictions lifting and hopefully staying lifted, we're going to be trying to get out and be a little bit more active in going out and meeting with some of you guys. So start looking for some messages coming up on Facebook. Once again, COVID approved and stuff like that, where we're going to start saying that we're going out. We're going to look for you guys to come and maybe do a little camping with us or go on boating trips, or I'm working on a small project that hopefully works out and we may be starting to develop some stuff down on that property where I'd like to do some videos, and I may be looking for some of you guys to come out and give your thoughts. So that is all upcoming in the future with any luck and COVID doesn't throw us right back to the Stone Age again. So yeah, if there's anything else you guys want us to talk about, or if you have ideas for shows, or if you want to be on a show because you think you got something to chat about, give us a call. And Chris is saying you've got a long way to go to be able to meet up with you. Well, funny enough, Chris, Ben's in Newfoundland right now. So it's not as far as you think.
No, that's not far at all. You're still in the Atlantic provinces. I mean, we've met and been with people who have traveled from other countries, so we're good.
And the only other thing that's on here is Chris said moss is great until you're surprised by that one twig you didn't see hidden in the handful of nice soft moss, or until you get into an area where you thought there's going to be moss and all you find is pine cones.
So my moss story is I pulled up the moss and it was a hill of red ants underneath. So do with that what you will. So yeah, using natural materials in the woods for wiping yourself is a great idea until it's not.
Anyway, everybody, until we talk to you again next week, have a good night, get out there, stay safe, try things, and let us know about your experiences. We always love to hear from you.
Thanks again for having me, guys. Ben should be back next week. But as always, I'm in the background. If you want me for anything, just let us know.
All right.